So my name is Amy Stuart Wells, and I'm a professor at Columbia University at Teachers College, and I teach sociology and education. And I went to Parkway Schools for most of my K through 12 education. I started at Claymont Elementary School in kindergarten, and then my family left for 4 years, but then I came back in 4th grade and graduated from Claymont Elementary and went on to Parkway West Junior High School, as it was called then, and Parkway West Senior High School, and graduated in 1980.
And so tell us more about what you're doing now today.
So today I have a Ph.D. in sociology and education, and I'm a professor at Columbia where I do a lot of research but also teach classes. And I'm actually right now working with the Ford Foundation on a project called Building Knowledge for Social Justice, which is about helping the Ford Foundation think about how to support students in higher education and research around issues of inequality in society. So I'm spending a lot of time doing that. But my Columbia home, I work a lot with graduate students from all over the country, and we're doing research on segregation in suburban New York City right now. So a lot of what happened at Parkway, I think, made me, Parkway West in particular in the high school, made me think about a lot of the issues that I came to study later on. Because it's a large, comprehensive high school. It was really big. Actually, when I went through, the classes were quite big, about 700 in my class. And we weren't racially diverse, but we were diverse in a lot of ways, religiously, socioeconomically. So I had one of my good friends' father ran a labor, was like head of a labor union. The other one was like heir to a fortune. So it always struck me like the different walks of life that came together in that school and how we became a community. And I learned a lot about just meeting and interacting with different people, and tried to kind of stay out of any one clique, and got along with a lot of different groups and did a lot of interesting things. So I think it taught me that appreciation for crossing over cultural boundaries and just getting along with a lot of different people, which is a very important skill, I think, particularly now as our society is becoming more and more diverse. I wish I'd gone to Parkway during the integration so that it had been more racially diverse, but I did benefit from its diversity in other dimensions. And the other thing I think is most important, I mean, obviously it was an excellent education and had amazing, phenomenal teachers, which I could talk more about, but also I think this was the late 70s, and I think there was more openness in education at that time. And one of the things Dr. Burr, allowed students to do was just come up with ideas and then implement them. So I was coming through shortly after the new auditorium. Well, it's not new now, but it was a new auditorium had been built at Parkway West, and a bunch of us wanted to do a dance concert that had never been done before. And we weren't like amazing dancers, but we just wanted to get up and dance. And we, Earth, Wind and Fire and Michael Jackson, and we just wanted to create a little concert of us, like choreographing our own stuff and just doing it with costumes. And we could do that, like we were able to do that, and just to create something like that was student-run and just creative and fun, I think taught me a lot about possibility, in creating things and being someone who could make change in the world. And that's something I've really carried with me and is a theme throughout my research and my teaching, because I study a lot about inequality in the society. But I don't just do that. I also think about what are the possibilities for change, which is why I wrote about the desegregation plan here in St. Louis, which is very unique.
Well, what kind of advice could you give to Parkway students currently, based on your background knowledge about the integration program that's going on, and also based on your, obviously, expertise on the diversity of America?
Right.
What kind of advice can you give them to reap from Parkway, to use that as a as a base, and then to help them go on for success in their future?
Right. Well, the book that I just published a year ago was on the graduates of desegregation, not from St. Louis, but it applies to your question, from around the country who'd gone through desegregated schools and were now adults. And because we've dismantled so many of those kinds of programs, that they found their adult lives much more segregated and their children's schools much more segregated. And there was a huge sense of loss about that. I mean, I feel that when we did 500 interviews for that book across the country. So I feel like I really tapped into something, and what I'm kind of calling like intuition around the fact that we've lost our way in trying to grapple with how diverse we're becoming as a society, our kind of demographic future, which is very different from our demographic past. And through that research, I mean, these graduates would talk about what they learned by going to racially diverse schools and how important that's been to them throughout their lives, and how they're able to cross cultural boundaries in ways that like their spouse or their, one of their siblings who didn't go through that is not able to do. And they compare themselves in that way, and they're proud of it, but now they realize like we kind of lost the pathway, we kind of lost the vision of creating a more diverse, inclusive society. And there was a sense of loss about it, and I just hope that, I know that the program here is kind of phasing out a bit and is declining in numbers, but I hope the students who are going through it right now appreciate that, and I'm sure they probably do. I mean, there's a lot of research now on students who are in high school, in particular, survey research that just shows they're much more, if they're in diverse settings, they're much more tolerant, they're much more accepting of people who are different, and they're much more prepared for the 21st century. So, and I think a lot of parents know that, the world their kids will inherit and the society is just so different from what we grew up with. And so this is one way to help them, make their way. I also think with the current educational system, we're so fixated on just testing kids and, measuring them by test scores. And like the example I gave about the dance concert or just learning about other people, I think is given short shrift and isn't emphasized enough. Because those are really skills that are helpful throughout your life. So I hope they appreciate that they're in a context where they can develop those.